Hey everybody, it's James, otherwise known as Escape Punk Lefty, back with some actual current news. So Trump and Gavin Newsom are in a huge feud as well. So, you know, to get into it, to be very basic about it before we get this interview, credit to Brian Tyler Cohen for this interview with Gavin Newsom. So there were a bunch of ICE raids going on across the country, and of course there was a lot of resistance in different places such as New York, Minnesota, Detroit, blue areas, blue states, blue counties where lots of immigrants live and alongside their friends and family. There's been lots of protests. There's been lots of call outs and what have you going on with this nonsense that ICE is doing, basically being the is pardon the language, the Nazi Gestapo of the Trump regime. And before we get to this video, I want to talk about something really important here that, in my experience, is dealing with people on the right and listening to right-wing propaganda at one point in my life. So let's talk about fascism, because we can't ignore it while talking about this subject and matter about the videos that we're about to go over. And I'm sorry for people that like the short videos. This isn't going to be short. So one of the biggest talking points that the right or so-called centrists used to use back in the day, Shoe on Head, Stefan Molyneux, Steven Crowder, Blair White, all these people like to say this, and they'll still say it to this day. Even the people that I never gotten to, like Tim Pool, or even I'm sure like James Hake and Nick Fuentes, that if Democrats get in power too long, they will use the U.S. military and other governmental organizations to wage war on people that they disagree with. They went on and still go on large screeds of false empathy about how they are under attack, how they are not allowed to do this, how they are not allowed to do that, and how the government is going to come in and stop them, stop them from doing what they're doing. But recently, as you can see, let's see if we can get a picture of it. Yeah, the National Guard has been deployed to LA in a largely peaceful protest where they are not really doing much violence. There's been a couple of videos and what have you of some cars on fire. There's been a couple of videos on, how can I say, people doing donuts and what have you. But relatively, these have been relatively small protests without anybody committing any violence. And this just brings me to the conclusion what this is really about. This is about Trump punishing people for daring to disagree with him. We know LA and California is one of the biggest blue states in the country, if not the largest, because I believe Texas is the largest red state. California is the largest and most populous blue state. They also provide probably more money than any other state in the country to the federal government, and they should withhold their taxes for this. But that's a whole nother subject. So these people in Los Angeles, as you know, are gone, and it's like, even here in Detroit, when I've seen them out, when I've been out skateboarding and stuff like that, we have a direct connection to ice goons who are breaking the law, by the way, while they're covering their faces. More on that later. And we also have these armed men in vans occupying the streets, snatching people up for no reason, going as far as to snatch people up from schools and churches and amusement parks, people who are trying to do things the right way. As we see, probably I will play later a statement by that fat blubber belly asshole Tom Homan, that there has not really been how can I say, really any lawlessness to speak of, and this wouldn't be happening if ICE left these communities alone and allowed people to immigrate the right way. Because if you're arresting somebody at an immigration court, they're going through the proceedings, especially when these people are decreed to be protected by a judge, and you have ICE officers waiting outside to grab these people and deport them to foreign countries, which is why nowadays you have ICE soldiers, because at one point under Biden, I'm not sure if they were having face masks and stuff. Military men often at the time wear them, but now they're wearing masks all the time because they're breaking the law. And there's a really easy solution to all this if we ever get a Democrat back in office. I feel like, everybody from Trump to Tom Homan to every individual ICE officer that disobeyed judges' decrees to not bring people back or to not leave people alone, all these people should go to jail, and that includes down to the individual arresting ICE officers. There needs to be retributive justice for this, and I'm not trying to be an eye for an eye type of guy, but this type of behavior similar to what happened on January 6th cannot go unpunished. So without further ado, enough slop, let's see what Gavin Newsom has to say about this.
The 2,000 National Guard troops that he already federalized against the explicit objections of California Governor Gavin Newsom and LA Mayor Karen Bass. This marks the first time in
which was also illegal
some 60 years that a president has deployed the National Guard without a governor's
for a good reason.
Request, a point that I asked Governor Newsom about in our latest interview. The last time a president federalized the National Guard in opposition to a state's governor was in 1963 when JFK did it in opposition to George Wallace in an attempt to integrate the University of Alabama. So that was a moment where the president stepped up to protect civil rights and expand civil rights. Now Donald Trump is doing the exact opposite. And so you're in a situation where you are in direct conflict to history here, because Donald Trump is now doing it to try and contract rights among citizens in the state. And so what's your reaction to the fact that this is the polar opposite of something that JFK did, that went down in the history books as a moment where he used his power for good to expand civil rights, and now Donald Trump is doing it in opposition to you to contract them?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, it's unconstitutional, it's illegal, it's immoral. We've deployed the National Guard on multiple occasions in the past. We have National Guard down at the border, mission tasked appropriately to address the issue of fentanyl interdiction, drug interdiction, working in partnership with Border Patrol, have been for years and years and years.
The sick irony of this is most fentanyl is trafficked in by white people.
Thousands were deployed here after the fires and during the midst of the fires to help support public safety. We used thousands of our National Guard to address the issue of public safety during the George Floyd riots. The issue of the National Guard being deployed appropriately is under the jurisdiction of governors, not the President of the United States. And to your point, that he's using this to create division, he's using this to divide this nation, he's using this in a way knowingly that puts people's lives at risk so he can escalate the rhetoric.
Again, this is the I'm not touching you factor, because he's sending armed federal officers, ICE agents, into schools, sometimes hospitals, churches, work facility. They have arrested the union leader of SCIU and injured him and is holding him with the detainees. That's fascism, 101 is to arrest labor leaders and people that are uniting people around a common cause of fighting corporate greed. So with that said, anyway, is that he has escalated this to somewhere it didn't need to go. And even the mayor, Karen Bass, has come out and say, and even the LAPD has come out to say that they did not need Donald Trump's help, and he only escalated the situation to make it worse by imposing a military lockdown on people. And like I said at the beginning of this video, I really do not feel as though this is about immigration. This is about 100% intimidating cities and people that disagree with Donald Trump.
Escalate his effort to continue to degrade the constitutional protections, those fundamental protections that we have frankly taken advantage, granted of for decades and decades, is extraordinary, and is a deep point of contrast, certainly, to a real president, John F. Kennedy.
Let me be crystal clear about what's happening here. This is exactly what Trump wants. This escalation.
So yeah, and I'm gonna like I said, this is gonna be a long video. I also want to talk about the fact that Tom Homan made a statement about wanting to arrest Gavin Newsom. Let's see if we can find a statement about this guy.
what's going on in Los Angeles, where it seems like everybody is just about what makes things worse, okay? What is the reality of ICE? What is the reality of the criticisms? What does this situation mean to what's going to happen next? I want to bring in the man that President Trump has designated to do the job.
Cuomo better not interview this guy with no pushback.
White House border czar Tom Homan. Tom, I know they're running you ragged, and I appreciate you taking the opportunity. Thank you.
Look, I've been listening.
This fat bastard, bro. I hate him because he is like, bro, it's like these white supremacists are always the least supreme rights. This dude is so fucking fat he has to take in like 30 gallons of air before he makes out a sentence.
Your last two segments, you got a pretty good show going, so very interesting. I'm glad I got in here early.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. I appreciate you finally watched the damn show. So let me ask you this: let's deal with the politics quick, so we can get to the policy. Governor Newsom, instead of controlling the streets, is trying to control the narrative here in a way by saying they're going to come arrest me, they're going to come take me. That's what's going to happen. What would that be about? Is that even something that would be considered?
No, this has been blown so far out of proportion, Chris. So I was interviewed by an NBC reporter, and we were talking about the protesters. And I said, look, people have the right to protest. They got their First Amendment rights. And
yeah, you hate that, don't you?
And I salute them, but they can't cross that line. They can't impede ICE officers. They can't put their hands on them. They can't.
I mean, you shouldn't have sent them in there. See, the issue also comes in where the LAPD and LA County Sheriff, and even I'm sure the California Highway Patrol has been 100% instructed to not assist. They can assist with crowd dispersal, but they cannot assist ICE officers with arrest and get them to individuals to be taken out and arrested. So this makes ICE job a lot harder and a lot more dangerous because they do not have police protection during these raids. But again, most of the people, if not all of the people that have been arrested so far, were law-abiding immigrants who are going through the real process to become citizens, but have been since kidnapped and taken off the street by goons.
Throw Molotov cocktails. They can't damage government property. They can't cross that line. Because when you cross that line, it's criminal. And when you cross the line, we won't seek prosecution. Then the reporter asked me, well, how about Karen, the Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom? How they possibly can be indicted? I said, look, if they cross that line, they commit a crime. Of course they can be.
Because the good thing, they have not committed any crime. The only crime that these people have committed was making LA a sanctuary city. And again, this is about, again, terrorizing people that disagree with Gavin Newsom. And I got to give it to Newsom and Karen Bass for standing up to this guy. Gavin Newsom actually came out and he made a wonderful statement of, he came out and basically said, you know where to find me.
California's Attorney General has filed a lawsuit against the administration over the National Guard order. It comes as a war of words heats up between President Trump and Governor Gavin Newsom. ABC's Perry Russom joins us now with the latest on that. Good morning, Perry.
Rhiannon, good morning to you. Tensions between President Trump and California Governor Gavin Newsom escalating as both leaders clash over the federal response to the protests. White House border czar Tom Homan floating the idea of arresting Newsom for allegedly obstructing federal immigration enforcement. Homan later...
How? Is Gavin Newsom out there protesting and standing in the way?
Walking that back, saying there had been no discussion of...
Yeah, that's dumb as hell.
...actually arresting the governor, but Trump has continued to criticize Newsom publicly, calling him lawless. Last night, Newsom describing the deployment of troops as chaotic and poorly managed.
Just get it over with. Arrest me. Move on. We have hundreds of graduations down here. Kids are not going to their own graduations. It's mass.
See? And Gavin Newsom was, of course, ready to stand up. The last video that we're going to cover is the Los Angeles mayor's statement, because I think her statement about how everything was fine before they showed up really puts in perspective about how these people actually made things worse. in her news conference. See, New York Post, which one of these do I want to watch that I feel makes the best point? We're going to try the Associated Press.
So when we look at what happened last night in our city, yesterday afternoon, last night, who's to blame for that?
Well, I mean, I just have to say, dial back time to Thursday. None of this needed to happen. Why did we need to have raids here? It was very clear that if raids happened here.
See, exactly. Like this woman is going to say, Karen Bass is going to blast them and say correctly that if there was no unnecessary ICE policing of immigration and no intimidation of the citizens by the presidents of ICE, there would never been any escalating riots and protests and what have you. ICE should have never been there. ICE needs to do its job and only apprehend and deport criminals and people who are not doing their job. And stop sitting up here going in schools apprehending people who are just trying to get their lesson or who are trying to get a good day's work in. You see, it's kind of is a trip of irony how I debate with people about this on TikTok, and this is probably going to be the end of this video. I'm going to see what the rest of this woman has to say, but we get all this loaded language about how he's only deporting the criminals and how this is not going to be directed towards innocent people and how innocent and good Trump is and how he's done no wrong and what have you. But then when you really look at what's going on here, you start to see like, yes, they're harassing innocent people. So let's finish this video out so I can cut this and get to my next two projects.
That the community was going to respond in a very negative way. I tried to make that case. Unfortunately, I didn't succeed. I was very hopeful that we would not have, that the federal government would not have deployed the National Guard. But anyway, I think it's important, period.
Because think of how ignorant that is. And that's even dangerous to the ICE officers, pieces of shit they are. But why would you deploy ICE to one of the most, I don't want to say dangerous cities in America, but to one of the most, how can I say, liberal and left-leaning cities in America. A cringe thing to say is that LA is the home of punk rock and like skateboarding and what have you, but it is the home of forward thinking and ideals that are not necessarily not seen anywhere else, but are on a level I think even sometimes surpasses places like Detroit and like Boston. It's a huge major metropolitan city where the youth are very active in politics and understanding in politics, where they have a high level of education. While I'm not saying California or Los Angeles is perfect, what I am saying is that did you really think sending the ICE Gestapo into neighborhoods filled with liberals and far left young people was going to end well?
That peaceful protest is a part of our American tradition. When it results to violence, it will be addressed as though it is violence. People will be arrested and they will be held accountable.
You said Thursday. Did you mean Friday?
No, I meant Thursday, meaning before the raid.
Yes, everything was fine on Thursday because there never need to be a raid, because a lot of these people, again, were doing their immigration the legal way. They were going to their appointments. A lot of these people were adjudicated to be able to stay in America and continue their immigration process. But Donald Trump and Tom Homan are ignoring those lawful orders for these people to stay in America and are going on massive raids to arrest innocent people. And I guess I'm done with this video. It's kind of long. I don't know how many views this one is going to get. But again, what this was all about was, if you ask me, in my opinion, this was not really about immigration. This is about sending armed federal officers into a predominantly Democrat city or slash state to intimidate them into compliance with the Trump regime. Donald Trump does not like or want people to exist that disagree with him. He would rather see us all, if not unalived, he would rather see us all arrested and put in jail for any reason he can find. And more recently, he's been speaking of sending 500 U.S. Marine combat fighters into Los Angeles. This is American fascism. Pray together and stay together. If you're out there protesting, make sure you're safe. Don't take your phone with you. Write down the lawyer's numbers on your arm. Take things that you need, water, food, and try to be peaceful out there. And that's all I really have to say, is that this is U.S. fascism at its finest.